Today's guest is someone who's moved through reinvention more than once, from a singer-songwriter to reality TV star to a transformational coach and speaker. Julius, welcome to Mind Movers, one of the best dental podcasts in the UK. But what sets Julius apart isn't his resume, it's the depth of reflection and truth he brings to every part of his journey, especially when it comes to identity, emotional pain, and healing. He's become known for his wonderful content on male vulnerability, toxic relationship patterns, and the importance of safe spaces, and for helping others move from chaos to clarity in their own lives. So, this conversation is about the messy human stuff, self-worth, performance, heartbreak, purpose, and the moment he stopped living for the outside world. So, welcome, Julius.
Thank you. You know, that would be really nice if I could just wake up to that on repeat.
I know. Sometimes it's weird having your bio read back to you, or what people say about you. But, I was lucky enough because Payman always says how do you know this person? How do you know this person? And I said I was on his mic. So for those of you who haven't seen, it wasn't 2 million views now.
It did well, hey?
Yeah, it did really well.
Well, that was all you. I try and make a point of keeping it me to the question and then leaving you to do well. But it's those conversations are amazing because they're so raw. I started out going on the mic it wasn't about gaining more followers. It was about normalizing conversation and just getting people to open up. And I went out on the mic into Covent Garden with my friends. Said, mind standing behind the camera? And I stood there and I asked must have been 300 people. Would you answer a question? Would you answer a question? And all of the men just looked at me like I was asking for money. and then 75% of women said, no, not for me, who are much nicer in that environment. And to be honest, I think I'd probably rush off and be like, what is this about? And then I got an amazing Scottish older lady who answered a question on what she wished she knew sooner, and it was a beautiful answer and it was so well received. I just had to try and work out how I can sort of create my pitch better and actually get people to come on the mic. And then I started reaching out to people like you and people who have a voice, are doing interesting things. I love it. And I want to kind of really delve into sort of the human emotion that you capture so well on camera. So Payman said to me today, because we usually start our format with something from the beginning, but he asked me to ask something that maybe is something that we leave towards the end. What are you struggling with the most at the moment? You've got that from my Instagram videos, haven't you? That's one of my questions.
I didn't. No.
Okay, I put a lot of pressure on myself, and I put a very much a positive front, but I put a lot of pressure on myself to be successful, and so I overwork, and often I fall to that side of sort of saying no to the quote unquote fun stuff and hanging out with people, and I feel like I might look forward and go, you missed out on the moment because you're working so hard. But then I read books. I read a lot of autobiographies of Steve Jobs and people like that, and they were just obsessive workers, and their success is what, came from it as a byproduct of their hard work. So then I think I tangle with that, and I think I put a lot of pressure on my co-founder and my brother as well on that. We need to be working harder. We're not doing enough. So I think that's a bit of pressure that I put on, and therefore cortisol rises. I probably don't sleep as well. I'm trying to think of what I can do at 9 p.m. at night. So switching off is hard for me. So that's probably what I'm struggling with.
Why do you think that is?
I think I just have a really high bar, and it's interesting because I talk to clients about this a lot, and taking the pressure off and leaving expectation at the door and making it and living in your purpose and your drive, and actually that will drive you through. But I think I want a lot from myself. I want to provide. I want to attract an amazing woman, and I think she deserves that. Deserves a provider and someone, and even though I want to meet level with my partner, of course, but yeah, it's interesting. I've seen a lot of success. I've seen my dad do amazing things. So I think maybe that was my picture of success when I was growing up. But yeah, I also think with social media, it's very easy, and this is such an obvious topic, but success is so over glamorized, and running a startup is so over glamorized, and you look at the 25-year-old who's made 100 million from selling a startup or her startup, and you hear about, I went to an event the other day, and we're trying to raise under $1 million for our pre-seed startup at the moment, and I met this woman who's just raised 600 million pre-seed, and she's 26. And so that makes you sort of naturally, because we're human, because we're human, we naturally compare. And so then I'm naturally comparing to that. And so I think for me, the step is taking a step back and actually realizing that I'm on the path, I'm doing the best I can, and not putting pressure on myself. Interestingly, the average path of an entrepreneur setting up a business and selling is 42 years old, sets it up, sells at 57. Not sets it up at 20 and sells it at 26. It's just you only hear about those stories.
How old are you?
I'm 32. Yeah.
So there's actually like a lot of things to unpack in what you have just said that I want to go into. First of all, I think what's important is what you said about the pressure you put on yourself to provide. And I think that that's quite difficult for a lot of men. I mean, I don't know if it was the same also when you were Julius's age, but I think that ultimately that's also why women struggle to find men that they want to be in relationships with. And I think I don't know if it's necessarily a helpful narrative, because I think to some degree we're all work in progresses constantly. And the thought that we should all have our shit together by the time that we're 30 in every aspect of our life, and I'm talking about career, health, knowing what you want. And I have seen some of my friends, I'm lucky to be exposed to a lot of influencers and so forth and celebrities and whatever, that they feel that they've achieved it all by 30 and then feel, okay, now I need to settle down and find the perfect partner. If you're trying to meet that partner that ticks every box on every level, that's a huge amount of weight and a lot of pressure that you're putting on yourself. And I wonder today as well, because I know you're a massive advocate of male mental health, that the reason why a lot of men do not want to get into relationships may be because of avoidant tendencies, as they're often accused of, but also because on some level they feel that they can't match the level that women want. To provide for an entire family is a lot. It's not just providing for yourself.
Can I
go on, interject?
No, interject. But that there's that famous book or article that the nurse wrote from the nursing homes, the palliative care centres. Everyone was going to die.
Deathbed regrets.
Yeah.
Was that her?
Deathbed regrets, right?
And then it was like the top 5 regrets that people had at the end of their life. And there's all the obvious kind of things about too much time at work, losing friendships and family members, and the number one was about living for other people's expectations or something. But the one I found the most interesting about that one was like, I wish I'd allowed myself to be more happy. It's one of the top 5 regrets people have on their deathbed. Yeah, and when I look back at my life, we've all had highs and lows and all that. I wish I'd allowed myself to be more happy, man. Like contentment, is underrated, and somehow in tension with this work my ass off at 9:30 at night to get ahead,
to provide, to do this.
But I do get it with your granddad as captain of England, right? That's not normal behaviour. That's obsessive behaviour that makes you captain of England in cricket.
Yeah,
maybe you saw that. Maybe.
His grandfather. So my great grandfather.
Yeah.
So my great grandfather. So his father called him MCC, Michael Colin Cowdrey, because the home of cricket is Marylebone Cricket Club.
Yeah.
In fact, he would make him bat with a railing behind his back so that he would only hit particular shots. I mean, There was an obsession from him. My dad saw his father for 4 Christmases growing up because he was playing cricket and they were on boats to Australia, not on planes back then. And so I think my dad made a conscious decision to be more present, because that had been a generational thing not to be present. And I've seen success. It's interesting when I did the show, when I did Made in Chelsea, people always go, oh, it's quite a cool thing you're doing. I never really thought highly of it. And I think maybe it's because I've seen crazy success. My grandpa would dine with the Queen once a month. I mean, he was friends with Nelson Mandela. The reason he became a Lord was because he helped bring South Africa back into sport from apartheid. He died when I was 2000. In 2000, I wish I could have known him. I was 7 years old. So I think maybe it's a reflection of what I've seen, for sure. I mean, you can look on the other side. I've seen such healthy love from my mum. And so I joked to my mum, I'd be like, you've definitely fucked me up, because I definitely assume that every woman is emotionally able and loving and sweet and kind and calls me angel. And
your mum's Swedish, right?
My mum's Swedish, and she is possibly the most loving and kind woman on the planet. I mean, what I've seen. I just, as a result, walk into life with the assumption that every woman is capable of honest, raw, and vulnerable love, and it wasn't the case. And so
my dad did to me, ruined me. Thought men were amazing, and I was like, Jesus, got into where I was.
Have you seen that hot, crazy access thing?
No, I haven't seen
Oh,
it.
you know it. Like, the hotter a girl is, the crazier she is,
Oh,
and then
do you know
she
what?
might be a dude if she's that hot, like that.
Well, I joked that someone said the other day, I actually met with some old friends from school, and they're all getting married, apart from one. And 3 of them are getting married this year, others are getting married next year, and there was me and this guy called Toby, who I'd known since I was 13, right? I went to school with him, and I said, "You doing any damage?" And he went, "Nope." He said, "You, nope." and my experience of dating is I've obviously wanting to get out there and wanting to go on dates, and I actually end up being very now take it or leave it. And this is not me trying to be judgy, but because this is definitely not mentioning all women. But I've on the dates that I've been to where I'm going on dates with beautiful women, well, I think they are. I'm actually quite often not matching humour, so I'm like, oh god, I'm a bit bored sitting here. And a girl mate of mine said this: it's because beautiful women haven't had to try hard. And
That's the same with men, though.
I'm sure it is. I mean,
listen, no. Okay, I'll let Julius finish.
Men learn to be charming, man, because you have to.
No. I'm gonna give you real life examples, but go on.
well, I can go on, because it's important. I navigate through this because definitely not all women. But I found that, and I mean, I was a little chubby kid, so I probably had to create a person.
Still a chubby kid.
No, you're not. You're not but. I don't know. I mean, like, it's interesting. It's like how even if you've been fully loved growing up, I'm sure there's aspects of it fucking you up, and I think that's probably a poor term. When I said that to Mum, she was like, "I didn't fuck anything up," and all this. But
yeah, I totally get it. Like, there's actually a few things that I think resonate. Like, people don't talk enough about generational trauma and how the impact of our ancestors, grandparents really affect us. I mean, Payman's heard this a million times. So my grandmother was Miss World, and so as a result she was actually quite narcissistic, because everything was about the way she looked. People worshipped her, so she was Miss Lebanon, everyone knew who she was a socialite. She wasn't an emotionally available mother, so my mother suffered from kind of narcissistic abuse, and she didn't want my mother to flourish, but my mum went on to go and be a model anyway, because whatever, she had the DNA. And my mother, I think she didn't have the tools available to her to ensure that she didn't project some of the things onto me and my sister. But I always say our parents do the best they can with the tools that they have, and I think it's important that we don't blame them. But it's interesting because although my mum showers with me with love, I feel like it's conditional love in some instances. And what I mean by that is there's this sort of like, when I achieve a lot, or there's always a comment about the way I look, make sure you do your hair, or always look really well to do, or whatever it is. And I've really seen that sort of infiltrate down. So do you think, I mean, with your grandfather, you said that your father barely saw him. Did your father also emulate that with you? And do you think that impacted you? Because you talk a lot about the healthy dynamic and connection with your mum, but what about with your dad?
My dad was very present, and he made a thing of it, of being present. So he was at every game, and he was an amazing dad. He was not a great husband. And had multiple affairs, and that was super testing, because I grew up seeing this. My dad was my hero. My mum was the loving, kind person I could speak to and cry to if I needed to, and my dad was my hero, the games guy, the fun guy,
More
the guy.
stoic?
Yeah, sure. And so when that came crashing down. And it's interesting if that is the case. I've spoken to a lot of people about this, because I'm open to talking about it, because I don't want to think it's just me, and my brother says the same thing. But I thought he was my absolute hero, could do no wrong. I thought the same about my mum, actually, which is actually, I feel very fortunate to have thought that. But actually, we're so flawed, and parents don't know what they're doing at the start. I mean, I won't know when I have kids and what I'll be doing. I mean, there's no course in that. I mean, there's no course in mental health. There's no course in trying to navigate your thoughts, or trying to work out what the hell the inner critic is doing when you're tested with pressure. So I think, yeah, I definitely have empathy for my parents, and I definitely it took a while to realize that they are flawed human beings. But I think that just comes with compassion, and I think that's one of the things, even if you're told a million times, it's something you have to learn with wisdom.
Yeah,
you know?
100%. I think, and as I said to you, I think we all idolize our parents. We all put, there's children, you just do. I'm sure your parents look, I'm sure your kids even look at you guys like you know everything. I think that's a natural thing. I want to go back a little bit to this sort of beauty versus effort thing, okay? So I actually have a friend of mine, I'm not going to go into too much detail, and he is one of the most beautiful men you've ever seen in the entire world. As in, he walks in a room and everybody is just like staring at him. But however, he actually struggles to build connections. And some of my friends that were like, yeah, he's beautiful. And then you start talking to him and he doesn't really have much to say for himself. So it is true. And I think that he's never really had to make an effort. So you say, oh, well, they develop charm. I'm like, I disagree. I think it works both ways.
The 0.1%, of course.
Yeah, but yeah, that's
but
what I'm
saying. With women, it could be, the 20% or whatever.
Yeah, but I think that also, but again, it really depends on what you desire in life and what your values are, because I also have a couple of male friends that really do say to me, I want a girlfriend that is a +1, is super young and super hot. And they are happy with that.
That's what they say to you.
That is what they say to me openly, right?
But I think that's an unresolved man.
Yeah, maybe, but I'm saying cool, like that is what they want and I'm not here to sort of judge it. Absolutely. I do also think, unfortunately, online there are extremely crude projections of what society really wants. I had a little bit of a dispute with one of my friends 2 weeks ago because, I don't know, some YouTube guy, you might have even seen this, I didn't know who it was, created a graph for the desirability, attractiveness and safety of a man, for example. So the less attractive they are and the more safe they are, the less you're likely to want to go for them. Whereas, if they're on the really attractive scale but really unsafe, they're under the fuckboy scale and you might find them attractive. It was just a really crude way of representation. And then with women, it's like the older they are, the less attractive they are, the body count. Do you know what I mean? I just feel like these things that people still project on social media. Huh?
Clickbait.
It is clickbait, but people believe it. People do believe it. You think that everybody is educated. People will look at that stuff and go, this is how I should be valuing.
And the thing is, there's a degree of truth in all generalizations, right? So when you say people believe it to that extent, but people are much more, watching your mics, yeah, sometimes you're asking the same question or similar relationship questions, yeah, but you can't help but keep watching because in the end we're a species of like people who cooperate with each other and interact with each other. We're so interested in the relationship bit, The mic piece, how long has that been going on?
Just over a year, actually. Maybe I'll do a year anniversary. About a year. And I guess there are only so many questions you can ask to people you don't know. And then I like asking questions based on what that person does. So I think we spoke about something around dental stuff, true. But also wanted to ask you a more personal question. I think I don't share the questions, which people are a bit like, what?
Ahead of time.
I didn't tell you the question, did I? I asked you the question in the moment because actually I've tried that and people end up trying to rehearse this thing they said in their head that it's always better when it's off the cuff and real and raw, and all I have to do is create a safe space for them to feel comfortable with me, and if I haven't, then that's they probably won't allow themselves to be vulnerable enough. But it's been really cool. I asked a question to an amazing woman yesterday. She's a doctor, and I asked, have you ever received online abuse? I actually didn't know if that was going to cause anything. I've received a lot of online abuse, death threats and all this stuff. So I just said, have you ever received it? And she went really open raw, and I didn't know it was going to go there. So you never know where a question's going to go. But actually it's been really well received, and it's really nice because it's the reason why I went there is because as a coach, so I'm working with clients, I was doing content, trying to be like, how do I put content on? I want to build my personal brand. It'll probably get me more clients, be good for my business. I'll get jobs from it. So I've got to continue building it, and also redefine myself after a career that was very misaligned or just different to what I'm doing now. And I've started putting content up like this. Hey guys, here are 3 ways to personally optimize your life, or here are 3 ways to improve your morning routine, or all this stuff. And it didn't do very well. And then I saw someone's content that was near on identical to that. I saw some bloke go, here are 3 ways to improve your nighttime routine, and have a Lumi light, and do this, and have a cold shower, and leave the window open, turn off the lights, and all this. And in my head, I was judging it and going, fuck off, you don't know me. Why would I listen to you? I was doing that in my head. I So, oh my God, that's me. I'm doing that content. I'm doing the content. Because we don't actually put content, well, I don't, for the people who know me. Because 80% of the content that is consumed, or especially on my channel, is people I don't know. If it's a post with someone or post without someone, your content's mostly seen on the homepage and by randoms. So I want them to connect. So how do I do that? Okay, I'll go onto the streets and ask people questions. I won't make it about me, and I can make it about just opening up conversation.
The thing is, the reason why I think the content resonates so well, which is also what I recognise for my own platform, is there's so much authenticity and vulnerability. And I always say vulnerability is a superpower which people really underestimate, especially in our profession, because we're taught that we have to be strong and that we're healers in society. So vulnerability is definitely seen as weakness in the dental arena. And thank God for mind movers, because people have, been suffering with addiction and so forth, and said to Payman, I want to come and talk about my story of how, I had to go to the Priory in the middle of a working day because I couldn't take it anymore. And I think the conversations that you have are about that vulnerability. And I think human connection is about vulnerability. It's not about that polished, perfect image that people are so worried about projecting. However, having said that, why did you choose to go on Made in Chelsea?
I went on Made in Chelsea because I was a singer-songwriter. Don't know if you knew this, but I was releasing music. And every show I did, so every gig I did, the only people who would come to it were my best mate, my mum, and my brother if I could force him to. So the old man and his dog, right? So I was going to these gigs. My first ever show was in South Woodford. I was singing about love on my piano. I mean, we cringe looking back, but it was an era or a time, and no one was coming. And I had in the same year, I had the option to go on Made in Chelsea or X Factor, and I had a friend who went on X Factor and did really well, but said, please don't go on it. They'd own you. They sign you up from even before you get onto the live shows, and it's really, really damaging and it's not good. I spoke to another friend who'd been on it, said the same thing. And then I had the opportunity to be seen by 1 million people every Monday. And, it doesn't really matter if I do well on the show was like this, going on a X Factor thing, I'd have to do well. And what if I fail and all this? But that was just like, I just have to be myself and just see what happens. And I had a manager at the time who said, Julius will only come on the show if he sings on the first episode. So I sang on the first episode at a party, and my song went to #1 on the singer-songwriter charts. It's called Seven Roads. Did really well. Actually, I did a gig a few years ago in Los Angeles, and I got introduced as Julius Cowdrey. They're very over the top, TV personality. Welcome him to the show. He beat Ed Sheeran to #1. To be fair, he wasn't British; he was American. But I'm not going to do the American accent because I absolutely damage it. Welcome Julius to the stage. So I got on stage, and I had to quickly be like, okay, I beat Ed Sheeran that day to #1, but the song that was in the singer-songwriter chart, Ed Sheeran released 3 years prior, and it was like Tom Adele and Gabrielle Aplin, but it went to #1 on the singer-songwriter chart, which is quite fun. And then it kind of became this opportunity, and actually it's weird, I started to really enjoy the show more because I felt more validated by what it gave me. So I could see real-time validation of following. Looking back on sort of my unevolved brain back then, I had a need for being validated from others because I was really badly bullied when I was younger. So for me, it was like, I just wanted to be liked. I became a club promoter when I came to London first. So just because people needed me, right? I can help you with everything. Be my friend. Even if it was an acquaintance and they didn't even like me, they needed me. So I had this I just wanted to have friends. And I go on the show and suddenly have a following. Oh, it was perfect for my ego at the time. It was not healthy, but definitely what I thought I wanted or needed. And then I'm doing the show, and then I release a song, and suddenly the song does well, and then I get all these followers, and I'm getting paid by it as well. So I'm getting paid to just turn up and be myself. That's weird. And actually, I'll stir the pot and do all the things the show want me to do, and it's super unhealthy. But at the time, it was filling this cup that I had to really. I didn't realize at the time it was unhealthy.
Rhona, I've never watched it. And
I got asked to be on it.
The way you asked the question, it sounds like
so
there's a story.
People actually don't know this, but I think it's one of the biggest regrets that I have of my life is not going on it. So I'm going to just
still going.
Yeah, a bit old for that now, babe. But I got put forward. So I briefly dated someone that was part of the original roster when I was at Leeds, and he was at a different university, and he had put me forward. So it was the original cast, Millie, Hugo, etc. And I remember at the time, so I was at my first sort of NHS job, it was like a year after I qualified. And I just kept thinking, oh, but what are people going to think of me? Because also at that time, social media hadn't really boomed. And I was so afraid of what the dental world will think of me. And I was so afraid of not being taken seriously as a professional. And I was worried about my regulatory body. I was worried about what it would mean for my career, my job prospects and things like that. So all of this sort of fear held me back. Yeah. And then I look
but
now.
You regret it now.
Yeah, and I do regret it now. But I think that like I really kind of Julius speaks to my heart, because I do believe, and it's a bit of a controversial opinion, that most people online, or people that do put themselves out there, regardless of whether you're coming from a good place or not, do still want validation in some sense or form, right? Because I know people in my friendship group, even my sister, for example, who are super talented and super successful without being online. So we may justify it and say, oh, you have to be online these days to make a business work and whatever. You don't have to. I think that there is an element of a certain type of person. I'm neurodivergent, I'm open about that, that like needs that. And I think as a creative, it is a good outlet to kind of get that creative sort of output and get people to give you feedback, as it were. But when I look back at the people that were on Made in Chelsea, I think to myself, my gosh, they built something, most of them, not all of them, so great with their careers. And that did give them the platform. And although I built something that I'm proud of, I can't help but think, could I have been more successful? That's what I think.
You know, Rhona, that when I was a dentist, one of the reasons I started this company was because as a young man, as a young dentist, I thought, even if I'm the best dentist in this whole town, or when this whole, wherever it is, my impact was only going to be like 5 mile radius of this practice. Yeah. And then childishly thought, oh, if I'll start a company, then my impact could be all over the world or whatever. It was a childish impulse, right? Now you can, as a dentist, impact the whole world with social. Yeah. And that's an important release. Like, if that's who you are, if that's the person, you're a creative, you know, like, you know what, in another world, yeah, without a doctor dad and a Middle Eastern mum, yeah, you might have been a, you know, like, artist. You might have been an actress or whatever it is.
I mean, look, I was amazing at English literature. I was meant to go to Oxford. I told you, you know, my teachers all said she has to go to Oxford, study PPE, study English or drama or whatever. My dad, being a Middle Eastern dad, was like, what's she going to do with that? And listen, I'm grateful to an extent, right? Because I've got a career now that's going to take me through life, and I do have the ability to express my entrepreneurship in different ways. As you know, I've got a startup as well, which we'll go into later, kind of the startup world. But I think it is interesting. I think reality TV is something that I look at now and I'm like, God, did I really miss out? And I don't know if that's also because society idolizes TV personalities. And I look at people and sometimes I think, gosh, if I was her, would I get all this validation? Would I be told that I'm good enough? Would I be told I'm pretty enough? Would I be told all these things that I see them get? Maybe you can tell me the reality, because I want to know a little bit about the dark side.
Okay, before I tell you about the dark side, and there is a dark side, what is your conclusion of that? Are you sat there thinking, lying in bed thinking, what if? And will you for the rest of your life? Or because the what if goes both ways. The what if goes, well, oh, I could have been more successful. I could have had more eyes on me. But the what if could have gone the other way. It might have been the dark side, super challenging, very damaging for your mental health. It might have actually, probably at the start, especially, people not respected you because it was very much rich kids at the start.
Yeah.
It's not so much now. So do you look at it as a regret, or do you look at it as something that maybe is
a blessing?
Yeah.
You know what?
I mean, you just brought out something on Channel 4, right? It's not like you're not doing that.
Yeah, I mean, but it's a completely different thing. It's a program. Do you know John Lancaster?
Yeah.
Do you know him? He's basically the TV presenter that was born with a disease called Treacher-Collins syndrome. So his face is very distinct. He's done a lot with like Lab Bible and so forth. And he talks about how his facial characteristics, he learned to love them because his parents didn't know that he was going to be born like that and abandoned him at the hospital, put him up for adoption, and the adoption papers said they were horrified by his face. That's literally what it says. And now he's an advocate for mental health. So as part of this amazing documentary for Channel 4, where essentially people that have had really unfortunate things happen to them. Like there was a guy on there that his uncle was a schizophrenic, so threw petrol and lit him alight, and he has all this scarring and so forth. So we were part of helping people with the aesthetic side of things, and Jono kind of helped them with the mental health side. So like, do you want to change your face? Because maybe this is part of your story.
Wow.
But anyway, it's an amazing documentary. And I'm so proud to be part of that. And I'm so proud to know that I can have that impact on people. But what makes me sad is that people still put more importance and praise the superficial world, if that makes sense. Because the recognition I get from that is not the same recognition someone from Love Island gets, or that's how it feels. And that's the honest truth.
Well, it'll never be enough then, that's the thing.
It's a
Let's
different,
go to the dark side.
Well, it's different. A different kind of recognition, right? Do you want the short term or the long term, right? Do you want the one that's respected or not? Do you want the one that helps people or doesn't?
Yeah.
I think what's acutely obvious is that what you're doing is impacting people. I've seen your social, I've seen what you're doing here, I've seen what you do by helping people with your practice, and clearly what you're doing in the show. It's these are amazing things that you should be proud of. I always think what ifs are just so pointless.
Yeah.
People ask me a lot, do you regret doing the show? And I'm going to go, well, what if I didn't do it? Maybe people would have respected the fact that I had a music career, because maybe, it tarnished me with this posh boy look when maybe it didn't really work that way. James Blunt got turned down by 20 labels because he had a posh accent. They asked him to change his accent. Then he had the most successful album pretty much of all time until maybe Adele came around. Not a good time to maybe be posh and an artist. So I could look back and what if. I've definitely thought what if of all these things. Did it impact me well or did it not? I actually don't think doing the show determines whether I will be successful or not, but I definitely think it gave me I had to do a lot of growing up. Basically, I was
during or after?
Oh, it's just during and a little bit after as well. But like, I didn't really know about coaching and therapy. It was sort of you got a therapist, it's a bit of a red flag. What's wrong with you? This country is still a bit like that.
So how old were you when you started therapy?
I've never had a therapist. I had a coach.
Okay.
Yeah. But I didn't really realise, and there are other reasons for that. I didn't really realise I think I needed it, and because it really wasn't an outlook, so it wasn't something you spoke about. My dad's pretty stiff for upper lip, doesn't really talk about his emotions, and then I went to all boys school where if you talk about your emotions, you're pathetic or weak or...
Boarding school?
Yeah, and so... I had to be very strong for my brother. My brother was going through some mental challenges, so I was just like, I'm the one who's okay, I'm fine. But really, I was covering up
Would you put your kids in boarding school?
Probably not, no. I don't know, this. We can talk about the schooling system. It didn't suit me. I felt like a fish. There's an amazing picture of Einstein, an Einstein quote, which is ask a fish to climb a tree and it'll think it's stupid for the rest. It was think it's an idiot for the rest of its life. I've definitely ruined that quote. But I went to a very educational school when I was so creative. And my skills were elsewhere. I mean, I'm emotionally, I feel like I have a level of intelligence that maybe most men don't. I like to be with people. I like to surround myself with people. I like that aspect, and I didn't like the mathematical, the test, the memory stuff. And my brother would say the same thing. He was super sporty, amazing with people, and then he's at this school and. That is really a business trying to get the highest grades so that they can charge the most, and that's what it was. And so that was, I felt very different then. But to the Made in Chelsea dark side, because I don't want to miss that, I'd say about 90% of people on that show that I've been through that experience with, and bear in mind I've travelled with them, I see them all the time, we have event days every single episode, are struggling.
Wow.
Are struggling with generalized anxiety disorder or something, or depression, or this extreme, almost gets to obsession of I need to be validated at all times, and my likes aren't good enough, and I don't think I look ugly, and do I not look? And it's because you're on camera every single week, and it's coming out, and it's edited in a certain way that actually isn't you. Let's be honest. Like that's the really testing part, and I found really challenging is. it's a show. Just like school is a business, the show is an entertainment thing. It's not everyone's perfect raw lives and they follow you around everywhere. We haven't got a camera here watching us do this podcast. No, it's turn up here, we're going to talk about this scenario, and if you don't get involved then you won't be filmed. So would you want to talk about this stupid gossipy thing that you don't actually give a fuck about? And then you talk about it and you have to take it elsewhere because the whole thing's about gossip, and then your sort of this dagger through social media goes, well, why are you getting involved? You're this, you're this, you're this. And then if you don't chat to that girl and flirt with that girl, then they're not interested in filming with you. So it's insanely damaging and unhealthy. And there's a reason why, if we talk about poor mental health in dentistry, poor mental health in TV, and there's enough people who've taken their lives for it to be a staggering issue. And yes, they're doing better, and the programs, you've got psychs on board and things like that, but yeah, it gave me a lot of anxiety. When I get anxiety, I have this sort of feeling like someone's staring at me from behind me, like this feeling up my back. It's really strange. I don't know if anyone else feels like that. And I would have that all the time, and I'd have that going to bed, and as a result, I was probably drinking more, and so I had to do this I had to grow through this. I left the show because it made me really unhappy, and I had a girlfriend. I didn't want to take that to the show, and then I went back to it, and I felt like I'd just gone all the way back and lost all the growth I had in between, because I was living in this same fake reality of having to turn up every day and stir a pot, and it's incredibly challenging. And so I wish, and the reason why I love coaching is I love helping people through these things, is I had to do it alone for 5, 6, 8, 10 years. I had to go from the boy who was bullied to try and work out why people would ever like me, to then understand parental dynamics and all these different things on my own.
You know what? The thing is...
And it's not a sob story. It's just a cool realisation when you look back and be like, wow, I actually did that on my own, but you can actually fast track it,
I think that also, the whole posh thing, that's really... I think it's a really important conversation, and we talk about that a lot, Payman, because I think that particularly in the UK, there is this massive, massive narrative about people that come from a certain type of privilege, look a certain way. And the funny thing is, because my backstory is my parents came as immigrants, my dad came to the UK with £20 in his pocket, but I still get judgment, even from a major TV channel, which I don't know if I ever told you about, because they're like, she's just too posh, she sounds really posh, because I went to a private school. But people don't know the journey about how I ended up in private school, which was actually quite complicated with what my parents had to do because they couldn't afford it. And it does annoy me. And, Payman always says to me, people also feel that, children that may have come from privilege don't have a right to be successful. And if they are successful, they immediately say it's because of their parents, it's because they came from money, which is really unfair, because he said sometimes they have to try even harder because they have to prove themselves even more. So I think that is something that needs to be challenged a little bit, and there shouldn't be shame around you. Everybody has a degree of privilege. Yeah. Even if somebody went to a state school, for example, you could say they're more privileged than someone that's homeless. Do you see what I mean? And someone that's homeless, someone who's disabled and homeless. You see, privilege, it can keep going. And of course, we are extremely lucky that all three of us you went to private school, Highgate as well, right? That all three of us went to a good private school. So of course we have better opportunities, but that doesn't mean that you don't have your own challenges. That's just my view.
It's that amazing image of a helicopter flying, and then the G-Wagon going, I wish I could be in a helicopter, and then a Volvo goes past and goes, I wish I could have a G-Wagon, and then someone on a bike goes, I wish I could have a car, and then someone walking goes, I wish I had a bike, and then the person who's at the age 90 barely able to walk goes, I wish I could walk again.
Yeah, exactly. And
it's this endless comparison to others. I think comparison can be healthy, but if you're aware of it, compare yourself to others, see where you stand. I don't know if it's always this unhealthy thing. I think social media for sure. Sometimes I wish for us, I wish I could be in caveman days, cavewoman days, and just be with a group of 5 people and just be like, this is all I've got for the rest of my life. And
but that's what we were geared for as human beings. For sure. That is what we're geared for. But I think that you walking away from a TV show that you recognise no longer met your needs is extremely powerful and strong, because I would say that people that keep going back knowing that it's not good for them, it's a form of addiction, right? It's a form of addiction, and they can't walk away from it even though they know it's not good for them. And so I think that's amazing. How then did you go into the coaching?
Sure. Yeah, for sure. I agree with you completely about the addiction. It's like, and it's also comfort as well. Like, it's, I can continue doing the show. I know I can predict every next move, and doing the thing that isn't the show is a risk. So I know. So the reason why people stay in jobs that they don't like. Have you heard of the region beta paradox?
No, tell.
Whereas this paradox that humans would actually be better off if things were awful because you'd make a change. So you stay in the relationship that doesn't serve you because they don't ask you how you are and they don't communicate with you. But if they were hitting you, you'd probably make a change.
Yeah.
Now, you'll live in squalor at your house, but if the house was burning down, you'd probably hose it down and be like, I need to sort this out.
Yeah.
And the paradox is that we stay in things, in this one life we're living, we stay in things that don't serve us. I've stayed in relationships for far too long when I was wildly anxious and unhappy. And I stayed in probably the show too long because it was just comfortable and easy and I knew the next move. It's really hard to go off course because as humans, we're wired for just predictability and comfort.
Yeah.
And I think it's very easy just to talk about it, but I think it's like repping. You get used to kind of putting yourself onto a different path. It just gets easier.
But did you have a burning house moment that pushed you to leave?
I think it was I've always felt like your intuition is like someone knocking on the door from another room going, hey, you shouldn't be doing this, right? It's like your authentic self going, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? And I had this rumbling for so long, telling me like, why are you doing this thing? It just felt so inauthentic and so out of my values. I was doing this thing, but it was money. It was following going up. It was I was doing brand campaigns making me more money. It was very easy to go, oh, the positive, just like relationship, right? Well, she is nice on weekends and she's beautiful and when we're intimate it's great, but but the problem is most of the time I wasn't happy and it was this thing. So what we just spoke about, I was just so comfortable in this place that didn't serve me, and I knew I was destined for more and destined for something else, and like I said, with the show I never thought highly of it. I guess maybe because I'd seen success in the paramount success growing up that it just didn't it just was so misaligned, and I had to. But it's really hard because people stay on that show forever, and then they suddenly get to 40, and they're like, "Oh my god, I haven't done anything with my life." Yeah. Well, I realised I wasn't really doing anything in my life, even though I thought I was. I didn't know what hard work was until I left and had to set up a business and see it fail at COVID. So that's what happened. I set up a social media agency, influence agency, and I worked with this amazing girl, Emily, and it was going really well. And then COVID lost all my clients, so I failed because of the time, but it was a blessing in disguise. My brother had started coaching because he wanted to help others. He'd been through very tough times emotionally, mentally, and he wanted to help people, so he trained to become a coach. And I saw how much value it gave him. So I was like, he was like, just train, because even if you train, you'll learn so much about yourself. I was like, that's interesting. Why? He said, well, the art of body language, asking great questions, being objective, all these things. Even if I didn't become a coach, that course was incredible. So I trained and I put it out on my social media. Does anyone want to be coached by me? I think I felt massive unease about it because it's, what's it called when you don't think you should be there? Imposter syndrome. I always forget that. So definitely had some form of imposter syndrome for sure, because you always do when you're pushing yourself out the boundary. And I had an unbelievable experience with my first client. I didn't take anyone else on. She had been very, very unhappy, very wounded and lots of trauma, and it was probably a bit past what I was capable of, but I had to lean in and just do the best I could, and had an amazing experience. So then I went, okay, well, this is amazing. I feel like I'm supposed to be here for that. Actually, for the first time, I thought I'm supposed to be here. This is what I'm supposed to do. I thought it was music, but it didn't really make me happy. I thought it was the show because this was this new TV thing that I thought it was filling my cup at the time, that was obviously wounded, insecure person. And then suddenly I was doing the social media agency, failed, oh my God. And then I coached, and it started to feel like this is why I'm here. I'm supposed to help people. I'm supposed to help change people's lives.
But don't you think that's what everyone feels that they're meant to do? Like, do you not think that all the professions in the world that people feel most aligned to being in is where they're helping people? Do you?
Yeah, but and no. I mean, I think all dentists can resonate with what you said.
Yeah.
When you get a patient who walks out and gives you like a real genuine thank you.
Hug.
In your case, there's tears and like, but
whole ceremony.
The genuine thank you is more valuable than your paycheck, your social standing. It's such a helping someone else is such a beautiful thing. At the same time, I don't think all professions. I mean, some guy might just love carving wood or something, and just adores it, and gets into his zone. Go ahead.
Yeah, can I ask you a question? Do you feel supported in this country?
In the country,
but that goes back to the whole thing of like privilege as well.
In the country,
this country,
yeah,
by the government,
the UK. Do you feel like people? Do you feel by people? Yeah, I guess we can talk about the government, but I'm not really well advised enough to talk about that. So
you had it in your post about Dubai being more supportive.
Listen, it was so controversial, my post about Dubai, because Dubai being Dubai. I mean, essentially, I've got friends that live in Dubai. A lot of I've got my Middle Eastern friends that grew up there. So my Egyptian, Lebanese kind of family friends that their families moved there for whatever reason. So I've been going there for like 12 years before there was the kind of British exodus. And then I've got some of my friends that have been expats in like Singapore, Hong Kong, etc., and moved to Dubai. People always gave Dubai a really negative press because they were like, oh, it's so superficial. It's so based on, money and looks, and nothing is real. And I went back a few months ago, and my experience was totally the opposite of that. And there's a number of reasons why, and maybe they are selfish reasons. Number one, I felt that the entrepreneur world was much more supported. So what you're talking about now in the UK, it's like they want to see businesses do well. And of course, the tax implications incentivize people more, but there is this real community of entrepreneurs. And what I find sadly in the UK, I don't know if it's becoming like this or it was always like this. People want to see you do well, but there's a bottleneck. So there's like, okay, you can do this well. And it's definitely being a business owner. I feel this because there's a certain amount of income that if you earn over that, you were like, what's the flipping point now? Because, and it's just like, and having so many members of staff and national insurance. So yeah, that is a bit of a government argument, but in general, the community, I feel, is less than somewhere like Dubai. And it was interesting because this was echoed by lots of entrepreneurs online, like Professor Galloway went on and said exactly the same thing. There was another British entrepreneur that I can't remember. And he was saying it is so much harder to succeed in the UK than it is in the US and Dubai. And that is why people are choosing to have business as an entrepreneur. Now, the superficiality element, I'd say London is pretty superficial as well. Sure, you have the contrast and the juxtaposition of the different classes. I live in Notting Hill, so of course, you get all walks of life in Notting Hill, as you know. But at the same time, and in Dubai, I think
London is not superficial, and in the world,
maybe in the social media world, maybe in my
in
kind
the
of
world scale, yeah.
But can you hide from it now anyway?
Yeah, exactly.
There's a Jimmy Carr said this. He said, people. What did he say? He said people. I can't remember. Fuck. It's like people want you to dream, right? But people like to see someone going for it because it reminds them of their dreams. But people don't like to see someone do well because it reminds them of what they didn't do with their lives. Yeah.
True.
And I think it's really interesting. And I feel very unsupported here. Right? But only because I have something to compare it to. So you've been to Dubai, you feel like you've got this support, and fine, selfish reasons.
America.
Let me be selfish for a moment and just say I went to San Francisco and Los Angeles and New York, and I go there, and there are people who you don't know supporting you more than the people you've known for 20 years.
Absolutely.
I have friends I've known for all my life who haven't asked me about my business, and they know it's happening. Who don't like the things online. Who don't say, "Oh wait, I love what you're doing." And it's the reason why it's driving a millionaire every 45 minutes leaves the country, not just because taxes are a joke, but also because people kind of hate on you a little bit when you're pushing outside the comfort zone, or they go quiet. And it's actually very, very strange. I don't particularly like it, don't feel supported, and I go to a country where I know no one, and I feel suddenly I've got people around me that want to back me
agree.
And go, wow, you want to do that?
I'll introduce you to this person, I'll give you this contact. It happens.
Do you know my perfect example of I was an actor friend of mine who went for a catch up the other day, and I said to her, let me give you the perfect example. My dad is Quentin Tarantino. We've just met, and you're an actress. Obviously, you are. And we've just met. Hi, nice to meet you. Blah blah. I'm an actress. Oh, cool. In the UK, nice. How's it going?
Yeah,
it's tough industry, isn't it? There's a lot of people doing. Very saturated. Like, are you getting any jobs?
So true.
San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York. My experience. Dubai, probably yours. The exact same thing. It's like, I have some contacts. Like, I can help. My dad's pretty well connected. but I know lots of people. Can I help? And it's the same thing with investment. As someone said the other day, this is a perfect example. Investors in the UK are trying to say no. Investors in probably Dubai, San Francisco, places like that, they're trying to say yes. It's this amazing environment where you suddenly feel bolstered up.
I obviously am so lucky to get asked to do. I obviously work really hard to gain a position to be an expert on daytime television and the morning shows and so forth. I won't name the specific channel. It's not ITV this morning, but because I love them and I still with them all the time. So I went on another morning show, and look, I am the way that I am. I look the way that I am. And they wanted me to talk about oral hygiene advice or whatever. I went on, the TV presenters loved me, and someone sent me a message and then went on to write to the channel to say that I wasn't suitable to represent healthcare because I didn't look like your typical Florence Nightingale figure, and that this country needs more healthcare care professionals that are less glamorous and less attractive. And I was like, what? Like the fact that someone went out of their way to write that. And the healthcare system in the UK, obviously we're super privileged to have it, but the narrative that you have to look a certain way to give advice.
Okay, but steel man it. Do you know what I mean by that?
No.
Like say, like make the case for that person.
What do you mean?
Or is there no case at all?
What make the case in what way? Like,
tell us why they would say that.
Why would someone say that?
Because of the way I look.
Yeah.
Which is not justified.
I know. No, but if it was just like, what would be the justification for
What was that person's justification? Why do they need you to look a certain way?
No, like, listen, take it away from you. It's not you. Yeah? If one believes, that stuff has moved on too quickly, that even doctors now are showing up with their hair all done, talking about glamorous things, even the police or whatever.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, of course you can highlight, if this person's life is so boring that she takes time out to make a quote about me, she must be a sad person. Of course you can say that. But the what was the sentiment behind that is an important thing, because maybe 11% of the population thinks that. Yeah, not just this one sad person. Yeah.
Okay, I agree with you, but I still think that
It's important to still man it in your own head, yeah?
I agree.
I'm not saying this was the right or wrong thing.
I think self-reflection is really important, but I'm still in agreement with Julius that the underlying, I don't have that I don't feel that problem with my colleagues in Dubai, in America and so forth. And I mean, look, I even got a tabloid came out, I didn't even tell you, that sensationalized something that I said, and the headline was so horrific that I had to basically threaten them. They wanted me to tell the whole story about how my dad came as an immigrant and how I built this practice. They sold it to me as like, we want to write about like female empowerment and how women can do this, etc. And then when it came out, they had taken things I said and put the headline is, immigrant daughter comes to the UK and now owns a multi blah 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 practice. And I was like, first of all, this is all lies. And they did take it down, but I was like, why are they trying to create, and then the media is another thing altogether, why are they trying to create this like hate and animosity, you know?
The algorithms work that way. But
you wouldn't have that headline in Dubai or America. You just wouldn't. Do you know what I mean? Like this person is now running a private practice. Do you know what I mean?
You know what? Yeah. You have a friend, who's like super positive. Someone like you, someone super positive, who's always looking for the best things and stuff. And then you have got that other friend who's quite good at telling you what she hates about something. Yeah. I don't like those people around me too much, but they're good at that. And Britain's a bit like that. We're good at saying what's pissing you off, what's pissing me off. It's
the reason why people love the sob story is because it allows them to. So it allows them to, and the reason why they look like people like watching reality TV and people fuck up. If you excuse my language, and the reason why people like seeing shit on the news, I'm swearing a lot today, is because it makes them feel better about their life that is pretty distinctly average. I'm really like, there are a lot of people who don't. The reason why they like to see the person fail, especially in this country, is because it makes them go, "Why? I stayed in that job. I stayed in the comfortable thing. I was right to. Look at that person who went out the comfort zone. And they're probably not feeling very happy with their lives, and they haven't achieved. Well, I've achieved. But it's all about the inner sort of reflection, isn't it? It is. It's like America, everyone who went to America, everyone in America are immigrants, right? Everyone. The place was completely stark land, and there were Indians and going around. I'm pretty sure I'm allowed to say that. But and
double check.
Yeah, whatever. But anyway, it was
Native
Native Americans. It was completely empty wasteland, pretty much. And then everyone who's ever gone is gone, I want a better life. So like, let's dream. It's like the American dream. Let's go for it. Whereas actually looking back, you were poor if you worked in the UK. It comes from this like all the way social thing, all the way back where royalty didn't work, the aristocrats didn't work, and the paupers worked. So I think it's not a let's go get it, let's dream, let's believe in each other. It's like, if someone does better, it reminds me of how worthless I am. And it all comes to our own inner stuff. Because most people are unevolved.
Although there are downsides to the American
Sure,
way
I was about
as well,
to say, have
right?
you seen or read Death of a Salesman?
No.
Oh, you really should. It's really, really good. It's Arthur Miller. I don't know if you know it. And obviously Arthur Miller had an obsession with the theme of the American dream, but the theme of the hardworking man who did not fulfill the American dream. So there is that dark side of it as well. And of course, as we know, the healthcare system in America, you will literally die if you can't afford treatment. Yeah. So, there is that. But I think we are talking from a place of entrepreneurship and somebody that is hard and is willing to put in the work and doesn't want to be stigmatized for what school they went to or what they look like. And that's what I feel. I feel the American dream in that sense, and the Dubai dream now, is encouraging people that want to work hard. That's the way that I see it.
By the way, but it's South by Southwest coming to London.
You what?
June. South by Southwest is a massive
it's like a
tech
yeah.
culture, whatever. But there's change happening here too, right? It's all around Shoreditch, right?
I think London is the best place to live in the world for 3 months of the year.
Agreed.
Honestly, I guess the summer I'm like, this is why I'm here. I'm making a swift exit as soon as I can. But visas are really hard in America.
So really, are you moving?
Yeah, that's the plan.
So tell us then. So once you decided, you found your happy space with coaching, you were able to have a really profound effect on people's lives. I know that your brother does it as well. I actually have something to ask you about twins, because I'm quite fascinated by twins. I read loads of studies on it because I just think it's really incredible. People say that having a twin can have a massive impact on your mental health. And I'm talking about kind of like scientific studies, not just anecdotally. What is your experience as being a twin?
I've always had a best friend at my side. It's actually the greatest gift I've ever had. Actually, I never
even growing up as a little boy. Yeah.
If in fact we probably isolated ourselves together because we just always had each other. Yeah. We were in different dorm rooms and we're begging just to be next to each other. So yeah, we've just always got on so well. And through his stuff, I've always been there. And through my stuff, it's like this innate love, really, that I feel very grateful for. The fact that we ended up going on these weird lives and then coming back together and now working together is awesome. He really pisses me off sometimes, and ditto likewise for him, so with me, no doubt. But it's so unrequited and unconditional that it is the greatest thing. A lot of people ask, do you think each other's thoughts? I know, do you think the same thing? And can you get when you've grown up with someone and you've completely lived such a unique, the same unique experience together, pretty much growing up. Yeah, fine, same nurture. Each other so well. You know a partner if you've gone out with them for 10 years. But I've known him since I was, day dot. So it's a pretty amazing experience.
You're non-identical, right?
Non-identical, yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that makes a difference?
Yes. I don't know. I mean, we're not. Yeah. We don't have the same DNA completely.
Yeah. Do you think that helps with the sort of identity piece? Because we had a twin on here once, and he struggled, identical twin, and there was a struggle. With
I know identical twins who don't speak to each other. My dad is best friends with one of the twins, and the other one lives abroad, and they don't speak to each other. We were always put in different colours, and we were never made to wear the same things. And you do that sport, and you try this thing, or you try guitar and you try piano. So it was very much like, we do different things. You try French, you try Spanish. Just it was never, let's pop you up against each other and let's see who wins. It was never overly like that. In fact, when growing up in this sort of cricket dynasty thing. Our family didn't want us to go into sport. Fabian went into it in the end, but it was very much like, we don't have to follow that path. But yeah.
So talk to us about how then the business developed. What's it called, and what does it offer?
It's had a few. Yeah, it's developed from. It's interesting being an entrepreneur and actually just constantly trying to solve problems, as you know. And we set up the company. The reason why we set up the company is because we were coaching combined 10 years. We were both coaching for about 4 or 5 years, each of us, and Fabian just a little bit longer, me just a little shorter. And it was going really well, but we were turning clients down all the time because they couldn't afford it. You know, I know my value, so this is how much I cost, and a lot of people couldn't afford it. And because I have a personal brand and so does he, it wasn't hard for people to get in touch, but we're constantly having amazing conversations with people how about they want to change their life on these discovery calls, and then they can't commit because they can't afford it. But I know my value as a coach, and people will be able to pay that. One day my client, who I just had 2 or 3 sessions with, so I was about 3 weeks in, told me that if his parents couldn't afford the one-on-one, he would have taken his life. Which was pretty stark, because the reason why I got into coaching was because of my friend who took his life. So I went home to Fabian that day and I said, how many people you turned down this month? He said 5. It was annoying. It was annoying as a coach because we could work with more people and help more people. And the whole point was impacting more people, but we're charging this astronomical price because that's what coaches do. And I said, me too. I've probably turned down about the same, 3 this week, in fact. What if my client was one of those 10? He was like, fuck. Well, what do we do? I said, well, let's charge less, put them in a group. Let's put them in a group of 10. Let's charge, instead of 3 figures a week, let's charge £40 a week. And then let's have a WhatsApp group and meet every week in different sessions. We'll have different topics and we'll be there for them and we'll support them. And they thrived. I mean, transformed as quick as the one-on-one. It was pretty stark because they had this support group. A lot of people are isolated. And then when they're out of that isolation, they realize they weren't actually that fucked up as they thought they were. You know, I fucked up, I've got anxious, I'm all these things, but actually they were lonely. I find that with clients, as soon as they just let the steam out, they say to me...
Group therapy is such an interesting thing because you immediately see, it's not just me.
It's not just me. That's
these other people are going through the same thing.
Community as well.
It was all about community, and so we did that with a group, and then another group, and then another group, and we worked with 5 groups of 10. We realized very quickly that we were helping more by charging less, and we're also making more per the hour. So we're like, this isn't more than just a humanitarian thing, helping more. It's actually a business, but we're exhausted and burnt out now. We're doing our one-on-one clients. We're trying to, navigate life as it was, and then we were doing all these groups. How do we become the platform that allows people to find communities from all aspects of health and wellness? I mean, it's so broad and vast, isn't it? And so we set up Safe Space that became Matcha Coach, which is now Joiner. And we had to have a year of proving concept. Is this what people want? Do coaches want this? Do users want this? Do people stay? Is the retention rate high enough? Like, how much should this cost? So we used WhatsApp to basically prove product market fit and that it works. Now, in a country where you say coach or therapist and people go, oh, something wrong with you. It was challenging, but we'd have to do lots of free trials. But once people were in, they loved it. And we had a very high, people didn't leave. And if they left, it was because it was on WhatsApp. It was always the issue. We used WhatsApp just to prove it. And so the coach would take a session on Zoom, save their content on the Google Drive, use Calendar to set it up, and then have WhatsApp for the chat. It was no all-in-one. And there are a lot of all-in-one platforms. So after proving it, we're now raising money. And we've raised half of our raise, which is really exciting, to not only take it to America to a world which they're 20 years ahead when it comes to self-development and wellness, and they actually accept it, but a progressive web app, essentially a place where any health and wellness professional can host their communities, drive volume by charging less. We've worked out we're creating about a 95% reduction in cost monthly.
Amazing.
So usually it's $800 to work with a coach. Say on average it's $40 a month versus $800. We're finally giving people the access to work with elite, amazing experts, and so after a year we're doing that. So it's very exciting. It's very, very exciting.
Did you go into an accelerator?
No, we haven't. We haven't done the accelerator. We're raising.
So explain for there must be many people listening to this here who've got a business idea.
Yeah.
And the idea of raising money seems totally foreign.
Oh,
How did you go from being that person, which you must have been at some point, to this person who's now raising money and all that?
yeah. So running a startup is endless problem solving, just the whole time, which I really like, because I like getting into the crux of it. Fabian's more impatient than I am, so when it's things like tech or anything like that, I just like leave it to me. And he's great at other things that I'm not so good at, so it works well. Raising money is not like Shark Tank or Dragon's Den. It's really
done that.
Really?
Did you not know, did Dragon's Den?
No.
Yeah, but but when you say that again, I mean, Payman's seen it. We actually turned down 2 of the dragons, and he always asked me, "Do you wish you'd taken it?" And again, it is an if moment. It was an if moment.
Yeah.
The episode was out there, and do you know that it's still our best performing ad on Facebook, even 4 years later? And I think I would always say, if you've got the opportunity to do Dragon's Den, do it.
Apparently a lot of people who go on Dragon's Den, even they either raise from more people because they're on Dragon's Den, or they raise from people. They go, look, I've just been on Dragon's Den and this is my pitch. It's actually a great way to get your business out there anyway. I've searched businesses when I've watched that show. I've been like, oh, where are they now? But it's really not like that. So there are lots and lots of no's. I'm like an extreme optimist, and I really am. Like I've worked so hard on myself to not go to victim mindsets, and I lean on the positive side of the coin 99% of the time. But that's through a lot of self work and discipline, and like trying to master my thoughts. And it's been very useful being a founder with that attitude, because through the 5 investors that we've raised money from, right? One institutional, all the others are angels. We've had 80 no's, 80 times. And one day we had 3 no's from people who all said they'd invest. And we're sat there being like, the next day we got a biggest check.
But how did you meet 80 people?
So we went out to San Francisco. We were struggling in the UK, classic. So we're in the UK, and people are like, oh, valuation's a bit toppy, isn't it?
Yeah. Classic.
Yeah, and we have to lower your valuation, give me more equity. Am I getting advisor equity as well, and all this? And like, and respect for and there's a risk to investing in pre-seed. You invest in the founders because it's the less than the idea, right? We just were fed up, and we heard about this thing called a SAFE agreement. So it's all about future equity. So say I come to you and say, hey, invest in my company. It's a SAFE agreement. It means I don't have to go to lawyers to get big things signed up. You get your equity on the second event, or if we sell. So it means I can just give you a quick sign. You're not on the cap table to start, but it actualizes on a valuation cap. So say if we're valued at 30 million in 3 years' time and we do our next event, but it'll actualize on the 10 million cap that we set at the start. So it's just a really good way for founders just to go boom. But it's a very big Silicon Valley thing, and it was set up by Y Combinator. So we didn't know about this. We go out to San Francisco with 2 meetings. One was sort of actually with our cousin, and then another one with a very warm intro. And we didn't know anyone. We had 3 weeks in San Francisco. And I'm like, okay, Fabian, we're going to have to say hello to everyone and anyone. I mean, to everyone, because we have to get into this ecosystem. So we stayed in a place called Marina District. We took a punt. We're spending money to go there. We're spending money on hotels. But if we get one raise, it's fine. One person who puts 100 grand in or 50 grand in, it's an amazing investment. That's why we're going back next week to raise again. And so it was day 1, and we went to hot yoga studio. I love hot yoga. It's just, you feel like reborn after. And I'd had my cold shower, and there was this older guy there. I was like, well, he do you come here a lot? I said something like that. And then, I think he thought I was flirting with him. He quickly told me that he was going through a divorce, and I was like, cool. Anyway, he ended up investing. But the cool thing about that is I didn't go in with any intention. What I've learned about raising is not making it about, hey, hear my pitch. It's more like, let me know about you and understand you, and this is my story, but make it about them. People want to speak about their things. We have the guy who's doing our tech, Fabian said hello to. I said, your turn, your turn to say hello, in a Pete's coffee shop. And he's this crazy, nerdy, amazing, smart people. You need smart people in the journey. It's what we want. We met him in a Pete's coffee shop and then built a relationship with him. We ended up walking away with 30 meetings. We raised half, which we were happy to raise anything. And that was a big risk, time risk, money, financial risk, because we're going out there spending a lot of money to be in probably one of the most expensive places in the world. It's mental. But yeah, so I guess my advice to anyone trying to raise money is it's overly glamorized online, and it's really, really, really hard. And make it as human as you possibly can. Don't make it about, hey, here's my business, it's amazing. Because guess what? These people with money who invest, they see thousands and thousands of decks every single month. So if they're going to invest in you, they'll invest because they feel connected to you. And fortunately, through the coaching, we're quite good at that piece, to connect with people. And so that's, I think, been why it's done okay.
I think like the other thing is that like loads of, especially because dentists think that because of the new boom of kind of like entrepreneur dentists that want to own 10 practices and have lots of products and stuff, they think they can just do it. And even when we released Parlour, like loads of little competitors came along and they died after like 3 months, because I always say it's not good enough to just have a product. No one cares about the product. They want a story. They buy people, right? So I think that's really important. If you've got the opportunity, like there's actually 2 dentists that recently also went on to The Apprentice, and they elevated their brands through that as well. So I do think if you've got an opportunity to go on a platform that will elevate your marketing, great. But like you said, it's about building contacts and literally asking for help. I think it's super important. People forget to ask. So when you say...
But also on the other side of that, yeah, because we see people wearing hoodies with 60 different brands on them, we think sometimes, some people think it's only about marketing and not about product. And that's a massive, huge error as well.
It's only about product. It's nothing about marketing. Do you know why?
Product's key.
Do you know, I always say that? Come on, obviously it's 90% product, because, and the reason I say that is the greatest form of success in your business is organic growth. Is people saying, wow, this really works. Yeah. Like if we could market to the world, the cows come in, we could raise 10 million and market to the world and bring on a hell of a load of people. If it doesn't work, it doesn't help people.
You're getting to the wrong place faster, right?
Yeah, and I don't know what do you think with...
I don't know, I think I disagree, because you think about all of these brands that have done well that aren't great products, but the marketing is amazing, or brands that just have created a story. You know, one of the typical ones, like something like La Mer. Do you know about La Mer, the cream?
Yeah. Isn't La Mer like Nivea?
Yeah, it's like Nivea, and they sell it. People still buy it, and it's literally basically the same formula as Nivea, and they sell it for like £100 because of the marketing and the models that they've got involved. And this brand has been going for years, okay? Right. And people buy into it. £100 for a pot like this, okay? Because of the marketing, because of the story behind it. It's not because it's a great product. It's not. I've tried it.
You make a really good point.
That's a good point, but that was 20 years ago, the story. They were way ahead.
Of what? Not the product, of the marketing?
Way ahead of the trend for natural products on your skin. Like they were maybe the first ever skincare company that was saying, "Oh,
the story was, but not the product." That's exactly what you're saying.
We're taking from
and that's the story.
Okay, they happen to be criminals, maybe. Yeah,
I don't know. But that's the story. The story is like just as you said, and it's the same. You know, do you know Jisoo? It's the oil hair brand. She is an influencer. I cannot remember her name now, but she's based in LA. Has a massive following on YouTube, etc. And she brought out this oil hair brand. Loads of people have really good hair oils, but she had this whole story about, I think, her bee farm in Iran and like how her family helped develop it.
The thing is, in very mature...
It was a story, and it's doing very well.
In very mature markets like skincare, yeah, or water.
Hair oil now.
Water. Yeah?
Fine.
There's the ultimate marketing, right? If I see a bottle of Evian, yeah, I'll pay more for it than a bottle of Volvic, Highland Spring, whatever, yeah? Because brand-wise, they've got me, yeah?
And Apple.
I get it, yeah? But the mistake people make is thinking it's only brand.
No, I don't think so. I think people, no.
Some people think that. In our industry, look, you can go to the biggest dental show in the world, yeah? Buy product and stick your logo on it. Yeah? It's all over. You can buy product from China, Korea. You can get yourself 400 different SKUs of dental products, yeah? Whole composite ranges. Stick your name on it. Rhona brand, yeah, and do really well with it, yeah. But at the end of the day, the product's got to work. It's got to do the job.
I'm going to contradict myself by saying, look at Uber and Bolt.
Yes.
Right. They're neither company were actually better at the start. I think Bolt actually came out before Uber. Well, sorry, it might be completely wrong, but I don't think Uber were the first. But actually, Uber, interestingly, started as a black limousine company from
that's
San
right.
Francisco.
That's right.
It's like it wasn't a product that was going to scale. It's Airbnb was we're going to put mattresses on our floor, air mattresses, Airbnb for conference weekends, and we'll close down the website when it's not. Like it's like there's a big saying that I'm learning from people out in San Francisco. It's like, you will hate your MVP. It's okay to hate your MVP. But the way Uber won was through marketing, not product. I think, but they still had to have a product that worked. So I think for it's a really good debate. We're trying to create an amazing product and get to market quick, but scale a little slower so that we can learn from users. And I think it's a bit more. We have to be a bit more careful because it's people's mental health and it's human, rather than if it was.
It's not like there's 300 companies like that, and you have to differentiate on brand.
Yeah, but so for example,
you're right.
I have a therapist friend that was telling me about BetterHelp. Yeah, and actually it's really controversial. Therapists don't like it because what's happened is that they feel, so you know the premise, right?
I would do that, and I wouldn't.
It's a market. Yes.
Okay, but wait for it. So as a therapist, she was telling me that lots of therapists have been protesting and saying that it's not good enough. First of all, they're offering people treatments or whatever sessions for like £30, £20, etc. But actually, the premise of the company, I might be wrong, is that they are collecting as much data as possible to, in the end, create an AI product where basically they're going to phase out therapists.
Yeah.
ChatGPT is my best friend. I'm not going to lie. I ask it for advice sometimes. Okay, I really do. But
what's wrong with it?
Because in the therapist world, there's this whole kind of ethical debate about all of that because it's mental health, right? So there's, listen, I'm saying it's my opinion, but this is what she was expressing to me. So I do think that Julius is right. Like, you have to also make sure, because maybe BetterHelp started out for the right reasons, but then when you start thinking about scaling and numbers and so forth and AI, it does become a little bit blurred. And I think when it involves healthcare, mental health, etc., we do have to be careful.
Be careful, but there's no reason why listen, man, this pod will not exist in 10 years' time. Yeah, some AI will be acting as me, or some AI will be acting as you. I actually disagree. He'll post his AI in, and they'll talk to each other.
I highly disagree. I actually think there's going to be, the world sways like this, doesn't it? It's like, even like the woke movement. We're not going to go there, but like, it went so far that way, and now the world in America's going, I want it to go the other way. Let's get it back to normality, or whatever people think is normality. I think it's the same with AI. AI is going pretty crazy, and I think there's a place that's going to really rock it, and it's going to be amazing for so many reasons.
We're going to have this conversation in the metaverse, I'm telling you.
But I genuinely,
AI is different.
I think more than ever, and we speak to a lot of investors about AI because they go, "What are you going to do with AI? How are you going to?" And we try and preempt it by saying, "Look, we'll use AI to speed things up. We might. Some of the coaches could have." AI agents that could learn about them to then, have so that their users could have 24/7 support and by their coach. Tony Robbins has his own AI now. Matthew Hussey, who's a relationship coach, has his own AI. But in essence, we say, with the rise of AI, people will need Joiner more than ever. In fact, people will be searching for connection even more because they'll be so pulled away. I mean, look at social media. It's actually people are feeling less connected, more lonely. There's more isolated people globally than ever. If we talk about, you said the highest rate of any industry is suicide is, suicide went up in women 150% in the UK last year. It's absolutely mind-boggling. So people are lonely and isolated, and we've seen firsthand what happens when people are talking about their stuff and open and in a group and feel supported at all times. That it changes your mind. It's unbelievable, the impact. So I think AI will do some awesome things, and it might phase some therapists out. But I personally, if I want to work with a therapist, I'll talk to a real person who actually has real thoughts.
But you know what the thing is like I think also that you're underestimating, like, trends change all the time. Like, for example, like, you even think about, like, and I think one of the most important things as a business owner and entrepreneur, which you would agree with and you would agree with, you have to pivot, and you have to be willing to pivot.
I was thinking of Friends when you went pivot.
There we go. So, but it is, I think it's like people forget to do that, because with Parler, for example, what was at the forefront of my co-founders' minds and us at the time, sustainability. It was all about sustainability. There's no sustainable toothpaste. It was all about the sustainability piece. And actually today we had a meeting and we were like, cool, this is actually the direction that we're going to pivot in now, because a lot of people are doing sustainability. So whilst that was one of our USPs and we have to still align with that, markets change, people want different things. And it's the same with like the beauty industry. Like a few years ago, everyone wanted that Kim Kardashian look, you know, and now people are like, God, I did this post on TikTok about the girl from White Lotus and how she had these like very prominent teeth. And everyone's like, she looks amazing. It was so refreshing to see someone not have their teeth done. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. Like people want to see more of that. So I think things change all the time. So he's right with the AI stuff. Sure, there's going to be a big surge and then people are going to come back round again and value more authentic connections. You know, I go on detox retreats in Costa Rica and basically live with a cult for a week because I want to get away from social media and that life, you know. So I think you're right.
Back to with Parlour, I think for us going forward with our business, it's focus on the problem, not the business. So like the money will come based on the impact that we create, but the problems might always change. So we're like, okay, this is what's working now, but like you said, it might not work down the line. So I think it's really back to the, you know, advice for any founder. Like, and I'm pretty much early in my journey, but from the experience, it's just it's like. You know when you're water skiing, sorry, not water skiing, when you're like you see those people on a board just behind a boat and they're like, you know, right, but at the start they're holding something and then they let go, and then that's how it feels. You have to really guide the wave. It's always ever changing. The world is ever changing. AI will be. I want to lean into how amazing AI will be, and how much it's been amazing so far. I mean, how the hell I would have done all the things to get to here in such speed, because
where are you at? I mean, do you have employees, customers?
It's me and my brother, and then we have someone in South Africa helping us with the nitty gritty things, and then we have a tech lead in the US who's got equity, and apart from that, it's just it's mainly us just fighting at the big fight. But then we raised to then employ. So it's all a part of that. It's actually just really fun. I think as long as the mission is really, really obvious here, and the mission comes from trying to solve the problem, and the problem that we felt firsthand. And I think that's what gets you through the 80 no's.
Yeah.
Or the days when you're just like, oh my God, I haven't had a salary from this for a year and a half, and like I'm having to do all these other things to make me money. Because that's why it adds to the pressure, because you're just like, I really just want to provide for myself as well. Like it's really testing, but it's the most exhilarating.
Do you think you're sabotaging your own ability to get into a relationship? So whilst you're justifying that, you're saying like, you know, there's like these women that are not particularly kind of emotionally available or whatever, but do you think in some way maybe you're not emotionally available because you don't feel like you can provide for a family or whatever?
I thought you were going somewhere else. Interestingly, I have definitely not been emotionally available because I want to get this baby off the ground, and I work, and I just don't know if I can give the time that is required to someone who deserves a lot. Right, so I want to. If I'm gonna be all in and actually receptive and open to spending time with someone, I don't particularly want to drink much because it slows me down, and I don't like feeling anxious the next day. I don't particularly want to have late nights. I like fasting, so I usually stop around 6, 7. So I have to go out for dinners, but that's fine. I can do that, and then I'm texting during the day, and I think it's gonna take for a very unique.
It's like men can't multitask, right?
we really can't multitask. Yeah. But onto that point, I was very avoidant for quite a while, and actually feel more receptive and open forever. But the interesting thing is, because I'm going to the US, I'm just like, I can't date anyone because
I'm leaving.
I'm 25-year-old. I was speaking to actually someone about this last night. 25-year-old Julius would have just dated and just had fun and not cared about the outcome. I'll just date, fun, and then it doesn't fine, it'll be fine, and probably hurt them, right? But I've got to a point where when I was in an avoidant place and I started dating someone and they wanted more and I couldn't give it to them, / it was too much, right? So because I was in that space where I wasn't ready to open up my heart, and now I'm ready to open that up.
What are you?
Well, I guess I'd like to think I am. I feel really receptive and open and willing, but then exactly time, I'm like, I basically need I would like someone who's also grinding really hard and working on their stuff, and I'd love to go out with another founder, I think, who's just like who's fighting that fight and gets it, because
it might work or it might not, isn't it?
Because he always said this, because I was obsessed with trying to meet someone that was on that kind of, like, he knows this, like I was like, oh, I want someone basically that's like the male version of me, and he was like, you are not going to find anyone that's the male version of you, because it will be a nightmare. You can't have two of you. Do you know what I mean? Like, you used to say that to me all the time, and I was like, okay. And I suppose like maybe there is a sort of like truth in that, because maybe you do need like a balance of energies and so forth. I hear you, but what I think you're talking more about is values.
Do you think you've given like a name to your pain, and somehow, like, I don't know, like just from a totally different idea, like if I drop $100 million into your account, your back would still hurt as much as it hurt to 10 seconds before I put 100 million. I know your back doesn't hurt, but you know what I mean? Whatever thing is pissing you off would still be pissing you off, as long as that thing wasn't fixable with money, which most of the things aren't. You know what I mean? You would still be you with 100 million. So now the comparison, yeah, that, let's say Miss Perfect came along, yeah, there would be this rush at the beginning, but then when all of the pieces settled, it'd still be you. You know, and you wouldn't necessarily be a different person, even though there was this Miss Perfect.
Money solves money problems.
Yeah, exactly.
Naval speaks about this incredibly. Money solves money problems, and yeah, I want to be able to provide. So again, their money problem, right? I want to be able to give my wife, my kids, a life that they are proud to be and live. But the thing is, I think we put so much expectation having to make so much and do so much. Like,
so when does it end? That's what I'm trying to say.
Exactly. I don't know.
Entrepreneurship is so fraught with failure anyway, yeah, that if you fail, you mustn't feel like you failed in your relationship.
I just don't think there's anything. I actually think that there's no such thing as failure. And the reason why I think there's
financial failure. Like, let's say the company goes bust and it doesn't work out.
It's a lesson. Yeah, I don't think there's anything. Any such thing as failure. I think failure is the greatest thing, actually, if you want to say it. I think it is this is a very obvious thing to say because you hear it a lot, but I genuinely, truly believe it, that failure is every time a lesson. Every time I went back to that girl I shouldn't have done, or I got, I was in a relationship I was cheated on, or whatever. I made those errors. I fell down, and I had to critique myself and give myself a hard time and work. I've learned so much to the place where I'm just so much more evolved as a result of it. I've seen them all like as an absolute win. Every single time.
But it's like what you said, even about like the burning house analogy. And we once had a great friend of mine, Louis, who's brilliant. And do you remember this? I'll never forget this quote Louis said. He's like the vegan poster boy. I don't know if you know him, Louis Blake. But anyway, he once said, he goes, a sick part of me wants things to go wrong because I want to see how far I can push myself and my limits to get out of that,
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? Like, sometimes I feel that as well, because like you said, sometimes like on paper, you're not like, oh, I wish I was like in an abusive relationship or I lost anything. But that's what pushes you to get out. Like the only way out is through. Do you know what I mean? So like that's sometimes how I see failure. Sometimes I'm like, bloody hell, I really hope it's not going to be all cushy all the time, But the only thing is like my clinic, I'm like, that's mine forever.
Would you like it? Would you like it if they could go into your brain and they could basically spear in on your dopamine and you were happy the whole time?
No.
Like they did the test with monkeys, right?
And?
It's really, so they did the test with monkeys, and I don't actually know the outcome of what happened to the monkeys, but I guess the question is, if they could go into your joy receptor and make you feel joyful the whole time, would you want that? And you'd be like, probably no. And people say no, right? Based on this test.
Yeah.
And then they go, okay, well, if they could tap into your purpose the whole time and you're always into your purpose. Now the truth is that, and the test basically results in the fact that we need the waves to be able to appreciate that life is we need unpredictability, I think. Even though we're searching for comfortability, there's something so exciting about living in this, what's happening next? Walking through the mist, what's going to happen?
But you know what? Unfortunately, I do think what takes us out of that and what dehumanizes us in a way is social media, because also the personas that you are projecting on social media or what you're seeing and internalize as what you think would give you the ultimate happiness isn't reality, you know. And I really see that, like, my parents are so in love. They've been together for 35 years. They grew up without social media. I really do feel like social media pulls us into my life could be better like this person. My life could be like this. I could be, you know, as I told you, even my comparison to like the reality TV stars, I'm like, if I went on the show, would I have been happier? Do you see what I mean? That kind of thing. And no matter how much work you do on yourself, I don't think you can become immune to that technology, especially when you start getting into the vortex of this echo chamber, because all the content is geared into kind of like this sort of confirmation bias. So you're like, I would have been happier, because that's what they are geared to do. Have either one of you watched The Dark Side of Kidfluencing? I watched it last night.
No.
It's fascinating. So just quickly on this point, because I think it is important. So the documentary is about the rise of kidfluencers. So these kids that want to become YouTube stars. I mean, I had no idea it was like a whole world, to be honest with you. And one girl, her mother was extremely opportunistic, Britney Spears style, and wanted her daughter to become very famous, put her in pageants from a very young age, then got her onto YouTube. She gained millions of followers pretty much overnight, brought in all these other like child YouTubers, and the parents were kind of involved but created this like squad, but her daughter was the main focus. And then obviously things turned really dark, because unfortunately they started feeding the beast, because to continue with the likes and the engagement and the money, you need to keep doing something more and more outrageous every day. And when there's kids involved, it's just crazy. And it's like, where does it stop? And you can see these kids that kind of, some of them like left, talk about how affected they are, and they're only children, you know. And I think it's like a really dangerous space, to be honest with you. And that's what I'm saying. We've not really lived through the full effects of social media for us or our children. And that's why I think that can strip us of our real like happiness and humanity. That's my truth.
Massively. I speak to clients about your pillars of peace or mitigating anxiety. Right? I know exactly how to, and I've got to a place where, again, I've worked on myself to understand this. Is like, I can live an anxious-free day. I can live a day where I have a calm inner critic. Wasn't always
happiness.
Yes, exactly. Again, back to Naval, he says happiness is when you don't want anything to be changed. It's like a simple way of defining happiness. And I think happiness is such a spectrum. But if we put crap food into your body, simply you will feel crap. I feel anxious if I eat really, really shit food. If I did for the whole week and I had just burgers, chips, crisps, whatever it is, for the whole entire week, I'm going to feel really dodgy. I feel awful, actually, in fact. Probably not very good in my mind. Now, if I spend time with 5 pessimistic people who just drain you, then you're going to feel in the exact same way. You'll probably feel anxious. You'll probably be doing the same thing, moaning about life, being a victim. The exact same thing is with social media, and I don't think it's spoken about enough, that it is a diet in itself. Everything you consume that goes through your eyes and produces the picture and then goes into your mind and then sits there in your subconscious is ultimately going to affect the way you think about your life, the way you think about yourself. And we are creatures of comparison. So if we know that we are, and we're still following the sexy model because she looks great, or the person who puts up that really unhealthy content, or political news the whole time, which is so damaging and just there for, again, clickbait and to make us sort of distracted from what actually life's about and take us out of our present, then ultimately I think it's going to affect us. And I think we need to see it as a diet, just like the food, just like the people around us.
I love that.
But society changed for your parents dramatically.
Sure.
Media changed dramatically. There was someone saying, there was no radio. Before radio, there was people going out and playing in the forest. Then TV.
Bliss.
Then TV came along, and then the internet, goddamn internet, and social media. Now we've got AI. You know what I mean? Like the media landscape will change. There will be positives and negatives in it. If I could push a button and switch off media, would I? Certainly not.
Oh my God, you need to go to Costa Rica Brave Earth. You'll change your mind.
Guys, I did a 24-hour over the weekend. Just 24 hours.
I've done it for like a week, 2 weeks.
And you're my hero because of it. But I did a 20. be happy for me,
I'm
okay?
happy. 24 hours, go.
I did a 24-hour detox. Not as easy as it sounds.
No, it's hard.
And I did no phone. Phone actually went into the car, locked, hide my key, please. That's how much I didn't want to be tempted by this thing that I'm addicted by. And I felt amazing. I felt calm. But at the start, I kept on going to my pocket looking for no reason.
So weird. I do that too.
Mental. And it was an amazing experience. And in fact, I wanted to do it more. I had the same experience with fasting. I've been doing some of these long fasts, so 24 hours, 36 hours.
Did 10 days. Sorry, I'm just not trying to trump you with everything. Okay. Sorry.
10 days?
Yes.
Again, my hero.
Yeah,
oh, God. You are, I mean, I want to be you. Right? But I did this 24-hour fast, which is a long time for me. I like food and I like the way it makes me feel, whatever. And for the first 6 hours, just like the first 6 hours of my phone, I'm like, oh, my body's gasping for food, like I'm going to die of starvation. And just like my phone, I want to see this thing because of the dopamine it's going to give me. But after those 6 hours or whatever it was, calm and focus from not eating. Same thing with the phone. My mind was thinking of these amazing ways. I thought to myself, this is amazing. Thomas Edison used to sit in a box room and just let his thoughts solve the problem. Steve Jobs used to do meditation and go up and be on his own so that he could solve the problem, because your mind is incredible, but we access so little of it. You must have found that with doing your 10-day fast.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, I love doing all this like woo-woo stuff, like, you know, Payman knows all about that. I want to ask you a final question, Julius. Well, first of all, where can people find your platform if they want to go on and find it, and also where can people find you on social media?
Okay, I'll start with me. So there are not many Juliuses around, but Julius Cowdrey, JL Cowdrey, Cowdrey is my social. If you want to look at the questions on the mic, if you want to come on the mic, just send me a message. I ask everyone and anyone a question, so get in touch. And when it comes to Joiner community, joiner.community, it's in the works. The website's bought, it's all there, but it's not launched yet. So stay tuned for that. But I'd love you to follow the journey. Okay,
amazing. And the last question is, I know we've touched on this, what would make you happy
right now? Right now in this moment?
Well, in this year. In this year.
We're coming to the end, so I don't want to. We could easily open a can of worms. My biggest blocker at the moment, I'm surprised I didn't ask it when you said, what are you struggling with? Because I just went to business, and because I think maybe that's the easier path. And the truth is that I have been closed off. And for me, it's about opening up my heart. So I've been doing quite a lot of breath work, talk about being woo-woo recently, and it's all about being receptive and open to love. Because I know I've been closed off to protect myself. And I think a lot of people are. And the first step is just knowing that you are, and just being willing to sit in the new narrative. I am ready. And so when you ask me, are you sure you're ready? I'm like, I'm ready. And even if I deep down believe, I'm going to keep saying I am, because I want to attract healthy love.
I love that. Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us today. It's been absolutely amazing. And for those watching, don't forget to follow and subscribe to make Payman's podcast finally the #1 dental podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you.